What's up, guys? It's Team Phoenix Cerulean back at it again. This time I'm coming to you guys with the standard Narukami deck profile, post Aerial Steed. Okay, take it away.
Alright, so we're gonna start out with our grade 3s. We're gonna, this deck plays 4 of the Eradicator Gauntlet Buster Dragon. Its skill on Vanguard is continuous +5 and crit per open circle in your opponent's front row. This includes Excel circles, so you kind of you gain more advantage playing into the Excel decks, so it's kind of a counter Excel card. Its other effect is Counterblast 1, discard a card from hand, and you can pretty much bind all of your opponent's units in the front row, which is really easy to trigger the first effect and make him innately bigger and a bunch of extra crits.
Card's broken.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 1-card win in the gold matchup. You hit it, you 100% win. You don't hit it, well, it swings the other way around. Alright. Our other it's also our boss monster of this deck. I would definitely pick him over this card. So I also play 4 Detonic Drill Dragons. Pretty much on Vanguard, Counterblast 1, when it attacks Vanguard, bind one of your opponent's front row. Then you can, after you bind a card, you do not have to bind a card for it, but after that you can then pay the discard cost of discarding 1 per rearguard that your opponent still has to stand him at the end of battle, and he'll drive -1, power +5. It's a strong card if your opponent doesn't have board. If your opponent's trying to decide which card to prepare for, it's really hard because Gauntlet Bust you don't want to commit against, but at the same time, if you don't commit, you ride Drill, then it's free cards to your hand. And if they're trying to play around Drill, then Gauntlet Buster eats all of their cards.
It's broken. Sounds really unfair.
You're between a rock and a hard place, kind of, because the counter strategy on card placement is well, it's one you don't want to play anything down in order to save shield. The other one, it's you need to play as many cards down so that they can't restand their Vanguard.
Yeah.
Alright. Moving on to grade 2s, we have 4 Supreme Army Eradicator Zuitans. This is a very good utility card. Pretty much every time a card is bound, which will trigger on both of our grade 3s, he'll gain 5k. So if you discard a card with Gauntlet Buster, and then both himself and all of your Gauntlet Busters will gain 5k. So if you activate Gauntlet Buster, your Gauntlet Buster will get, rather than 5k per front row, it'll be like 10k or whatever. His other effect is after he attacks Vanguard, if there are no front row units, you can put himself into Soul to draw a card. The draw is very helpful for soul building and drawing into extra shield if you're playing into a mirror or a heavy control deck. Alright. I find this is a really good beater for the deck, because if you just leave him out there, your opponent calls down cards, and you start binding stuff, he'll start really racking up the +5 stacks.
Yeah. Hits like a truck.
It can. I also play 4 Fiendish Sword Eradicators Chos. It has 2 effects: Vanguard, Rearguard. When it's placed, you can Counterblast 1, bind one of your opponent's front row, and then you can choose to move the back row up. By the way, I forgot to mention Gauntlet Buster. When you bind a card, you can also move the back row up. Both move effects are optional. I mostly just play it for the bind effect.
It's Vanguard, Rearguard too.
Yeah. It has a secondary effect. I'll use if I didn't really need the bind. It's kind of just, think of it as a one or the other. His other effect is Counterblast 1. At the end of the battle that the Vanguard attacks, you can Counterblast 1 to stand him. It's very useful for... I found it very useful in combination with Drill. So you'll swing with Drill, use the restand effect, put all triggers on Cho. then swing with Cho-Oh, swing with Vanguard, and stand Cho-Oh again. So you'll be able to use your crit more effectively.
The only drawback is your opponent needs to have no front row, but that's not that hard to
That
pull
usually
off.
is not that hard. This deck doesn't usually care about your opponent calling back row, just as long as their front row is cleared, so all of your skills are still alive. I also, this is my personal favorite of the deck. I play 3 dancing.
What is that?
Or Dragon
You're
Dancer.
running a 3K in Vanguard? What?
All right, so this is.
Oh, look, yeah, it's 2 crit.
Yeah, so this is one of the cards that came out with the Aerial Seed. It has base power of 3, natural crit 2. Now,
Look at that.
this card is an amazing card. At first, I thought that it'd be kind of like lackluster because it was 3K, but the natural crit 2 catches a lot of people off guard. For example, I mean, it's just hard to keep the situation manageable for it, but it's pretty much if you have to ride, pretty much if you're there's a lot of times where your opponent will want damage early, so I ride this. Yes, I ride this intentionally, and swing 3 into like their 9 or 10, and then they're forced to either guard it because it's natural crit 2, or no guard it, and if I flip a crit, that's 3 damage, which is already lethal for any of my other grade 3s. Once I get into grade 3, forcing my opponent into a situation where they no longer have any breathing room for the pressure from my grade 3 turn on, which is where the deck really starts to ramp up.
But what if you get rushed down? You're a 3K.
So, my strategy actually is if my opponent, or if I am going, or if I have to ride this, my motto is to stay at 0 damage, so I can just freely no guard everything. My opponent actually has to do 6 damage, and the more cards they commit, the harder they're punished by the Gauntlet Buster, which you intentionally ride next. So it was funny because when I was playing this, the first week Aerial Seed dropped, it was kind of funny because we pretty much went undefeated because and we rode this almost every game. But that was because we baited our opponent. They would overcommit cards. We'd ride the Gauntlet Buster, nuke their board, and then they wouldn't have the guard for the Gauntlet Buster.
Wow. Get so baited. No.
Yeah, like we generate a lot of advantage off the synergy between those two, and also there's I play an unnaturally high number of crits with this deck, so it's very likely that if my opponent does no guard, it's not just 2 damage that they'll take off of this. Also, all right, so that's enough talking about this card, but this is a surprisingly good card.
Don't doubt the 3K with the crit.
Yeah, no. We also went undefeated the week after Aerial Seed came out.
Wow.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much 2-0'd everybody because 3K is amazing. And then I play a 1-of Desert Gunner Dorian. This is kind of our Soul Blast engine. Like if we have to ride a Phoenix or something, it's just to make sure Phoenix gets out. It's also, I play this over Death Scythe because this can proc multiple times, so I can use all of that soul that I built up off Sweeten and all my other grade 3 rides. It's a very decent card. Its effect is when I would discard a card, I can Soul Blast 2 to draw 1. It's okay. I use it pretty much to keep my hand healthy because I'm cut. You'll see when I do my trigger lineup. Speaking of Phoenix, we played at Rising Phoenix. We played at 4. Pretty much when a card is bound, you can call it to rearguard. I pretty much just use this to fill up my board. I don't really use it for anything else. It's an 11K when it's called from drop. But other than that, it's pretty much discard fodder, as well as any additional grade 3s you have in your hands, just to keep the Gauntlet Buster alive. Alright. Yeah, no. This is the innately good card that we got.
So when you bind something...
When a card is bound, you can call it.
Sweet. Okay.
You can use this in combination with Drill for the multi-attack. That's been pretty well known. One card that really makes this deck work is I play 4 Desert Gunner Gaibins.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is our protect matchup out, as well as how we keep the 3K useful. So its effect is at the end of the battle that the Vanguard attack, you can give a unit 3K, and then your opponent cannot PG.
Can I call something for it?
Yeah. So if you make this lane, after your Vanguard attacks, you give this unit 3K as well as all of your triggers, and then this is 13, 2 damage. They can't PG. All triggers go here. If we double trigger, it's 33. And so on and so forth. This card is just silly in combination with just about anything. I mean, you put Drill on, they can't PG it on the restand, and you put your crit on Vanguard. You have to swing unboosted, and then it swings for like 37. They have to have multiple triggers in hand to be able to block it, or they're no guarding. Put her on the Cho-Oh, like for example what I said, you put the trigger on Cho-Oh first so they can't PG both attacks. Alright. Now, I also play 3 Demolition Dragons. I mainly,
congratulations.
Yeah, so they're all the championship promo released as Aerial Steed was dropping, so clearly we were doing very well. So it is has continuous gains 3K if your opponent has no front row. This deck, if you ride Gauntlet Buster, it's very easy to achieve that. Mostly used playing this for force numbers, or so that we 11 boosting 12s hit the magic number for force. Also on Vanguard, it has an on-hit draw. We value the draw kind of because the deck cut draw triggers, but yeah, this is a very handy early game pressure card because your opponent has to consider just the normal, do I want them to draw early?
Nice.
Because drawing is advantage. And I also play 2 of the pretty much grade 1 PGs that dropped with Aerial Seal, or Steed. Its effect is when it's ridden, you can draw a card, discard a card. So it's very helpful for digging for your correct grade 3, as well as you can ride it, discard Phoenix, and then Phoenix is already set up, and then you ride Cho-Oh the next turn, and then or on your opponent's push, and then you can call Phoenix from drop, and pretty much you got free advantage there. Yeah, no, that is a fairly solid card. Also, it can help if your opponent can't guard with zeros.
What about
that restriction?
So you know OTT has like Silent Tom? What about that? What would you do about that with?
You mean the one where I can't call normal units?
Yeah.
You'll see my trigger lineup. Oh. My trigger lineup is the reason for this deck. Alright, so I play 4 heal triggers. Pretty standard. Oh yeah, starter, clearly. I play 2 draw triggers, or 2 draw PGs, to account for the two other PGs, just to have four PGs in the deck. And I play, let's see, 4 yellow Carbuncle. So I play a total of 10 crits. Yeah.
Ooh, wow.
So if my
That's
opponent
a lot
says
of damage.
my opponent says no guard at any point in this game, we can pretty much extend our hand and say GG, because if we're swinging Gauntlet Buster into them for exactly 6, it's probably not just 6. If we're playing,
Wow.
or I mean, you know, they go to 6 damage. Like, we're swinging 22 into their, I don't know, their Force Vanguard or whatever, or Protect or whatever, and they're at 3. They have us heal on top or something. It's probably they're probably still gonna die. Anyway, this deck tends to abuse the damage manipulation method, so my opponent is forced to eat multiple damage at once, and I can very easily control the amount of damage given to my opponent. which is another innate quality of this 3K. If we crit, it's probably not just 2. Or if we trigger, it's probably not just 2 damage that this thing took, or did. Same reason we can abuse drill. Anyway, yeah, so this deck was... I actually enjoy this build a lot more than... I actually considered playing 12 crits with this, but I couldn't find space in the grade 1 line. I think I'd just have to cut Demolition. Yeah. So matchup-wise, the first week we played OTT. We 2-0'd them by riding Drill and combining it with the Gaibin Guard Restrict. So for those that don't know, you swing with Drill unboosted, use Gaibin's effect on him, put all triggers on Vanguard. So this is like a 5 to guard at first for 1, or a 15 for 2. You'll put the guard restrict here, it'll stand. Even if you did not hit triggers, this is still 27. If you did flip a crit, which I mean if we triggered exactly, it swings for a lot of damage and their PGs are pretty useless in the OTT matchup. After that we played Nova Grappler, Beast Deity. Pretty much rode this and said, you have Excel circles, so this will always swing for lethal. And then as soon as you run out of counterblast, you have no effects.
Wow.
Same reason why when we played the mirror match, pretty much he rode Drill. We gave him 1 damage. No, I think it was 2. And then we just said, eat this Gauntlet Buster.
Wow.
You can guard it. All right. Pass turn. Next turn. Or because also another helpful feature of this deck is we're playing a lot of extra 15k shield, so we have a lot of good shield per card, which is a very useful trait this deck has for the grind game.
Wow.
Yeah. So we can do a lot of 1-card guarding, and there's a lot of extra draws that we can generate. Yeah. And then we played into DP. Pretty much, I lost that one, but it was, we missed our Gauntlet Buster and didn't hit any. Pretty much, we had no effects. We were swinging with triggers. Not a very helpful thing. And then top 8, we would have won the tournament, I think. The problem with top 8 was both game 2 and 3, I played into Nova Grappler, and well, I failed G-Assist into my grade 1 going second. No, going. I failed G-Assist twice, or I failed assist twice. And then in the next one, it was we went undefeated playing into Nubatama, Kagero, and DP. Pretty much. In the Nubatama matchup, we went Excel 1 and pressured them using Drill. Gauntlet Buster was how we beat the Kagero, and also the DP. Pretty much prevented them from using a lot of their counterblast skills when they wanted. It's kind of ridiculous. And then we played into Gold. By the way, that's what I forgot. Okay, so no, it was our top 4 game was the Nova Grappler, where we got double grade locked. Top 8, we played Gold Paladin, which that game is funny because of this card. So in the gold matchup, all you have to do is ride Gauntlet Buster, swing, and then that's it. They have absolute. If they can't block the Gauntlet Buster, they die. All of the other cards you have in the matchup should be geared toward guarding their turn when they're trying to, kill you before they swing again with Gauntlet Buster. So all you really have to do is ride Gauntlet. That's all I did. I 2-0'd because we rode Gauntlet Buster, said, this is 43, do you have the PG? This is also lethal. And he had it for like 2 or 3 turns. And eventually he died just because... Again, we play a lot of 15k shield, so we are 1-card guarding a lot of his attacks. even though they swing for like 22. And then if we just use Gauntlet Buster's effect every turn, discard 1, we can bring back Phoenix or draw off of Gaibin. Or draw off of, not Gaibin, the Dorian. Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much how this deck works. It's, you try and keep your opponent with very little counterblast to work with, guard them efficiently, and, well, make them eat a bunch of damage.
Wow. That's pretty good.
And that's pretty much it. You got any questions? No? Alright.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching. This was a standard Narukami deck profile post Aerial Steed. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. This Team Cerulean signing out.